Oh, it is Wednesday night, and that means it's time for the weather show. Good evening to you. Thanks for spending part of your Wednesday night with us here, or maybe you're watching later in the week, or thanks for spending some of your time with us whenever that might be. It's so good to see you tonight. We've got a lot to talk about on the weather show. If you're new to it, we always start with the three big things. We'll get to your forecast in just a minute. Question I've been getting asked a lot. Not just today, but really this week. Are we done with the heavy rainfall for a while? We did have the third wettest September on record. We had 5 days with over an inch, 5 different days with over an inch of rain in September. It was so blech, that we've got better. That's an official weather term, by the way. Yeah. Anyway, we've got that coming in. We've got the old school weather. Tonight, we are going to go all over the country. We're going to show you everything that's happening out there. And then fall foliage facts. Our viewer question this week deals with fall colors. Why do they happen? We will answer that for you coming up in just a bit. Let's show you what's happening right now as far as our forecast. We're taking a live look at First Alert DopplerNet tonight, our network of live radar, skin, and skies. Boy, this thing's been so busy over the past week. We've had, last week, we had several tornadoes. We had 4 confirmed tornadoes in the area. We had at least a dozen tornado warnings over the past couple of days. So it has been quieting down tonight. We're not seeing anything on the old Doppler radar network. As a matter of fact, I had to move this is, if you're new and you're just joining us, we show this every week because I want to get it out there that we actually have this on abc11.com/weather. This is the CVD radar, color vision deficiency. Several years ago, we would say colorblind. If you can't see reds and greens, and up to 10% of the audience has trouble discerning reds and greens. This is all blue and yellow, and it's always available at abc11.com. Now, it's only for our area, but when I show the weather show, we try and go find you some precipitation. So we're up to Lynchburg, Virginia. Here's Morgantown, West Virginia, Hagerstown, Maryland, the nation's capital, Richmond, and Cuckoo. I don't know where that is. Never been to Cuckoo, Virginia, but they're about to see some showers, and you can see some of that rain moving through. And again, if you or someone you know struggles with color vision deficiency or color blindness, especially with reds and greens, that's always available at abc11.com/weather. All right, we're taking a live look on our Pendo Sky Cam, looking into downtown, and you can see the reflection off the Wells Fargo building here, looking back to the west. It should be a beautiful sunset tonight. 73 degrees right now under a partly cloudy sky. Let's show you what's happening as far as satellite radar. We did have a system that pushed through earlier today, brought a few showers to some of our eastern half of the viewing area. We even saw a few showers in parts of Wake County. Those have shut off. As the sun goes down, we lose the energy from the day. Still see a couple of showers through upstate New York and off toward Pennsylvania. And those showers I just showed you in Virginia, that's it. Look at how dry it is across the country. As a matter of fact, old school weather tonight, we're going to be dealing with a lot of high pressure and a lot of clear skies. So we show you what's happening as far as tonight, those low temperatures dropping down into the 60s, 60 in Roxborough, 63 in Durham, 61 tonight in Sanford, 63 in Lumberton, Fayetteville, 62 in Clinton, 59 in Roanoke Rapids. As those clouds start to break up tonight, we are going to see the skies clear out, and that's going to lower the temperatures, and there's a lot of moisture in the lower part of the atmosphere. So our first alert fog predictor is lighting up for tomorrow morning, and I do think you will see patches of dense fog, especially eastern areas where you saw the rain today, but there's still a lot of moisture in the lower part of the atmosphere. Is that sky? Maybe we'll answer that. Squirrel, sorry. But maybe coming up in a couple of weeks, we'll answer why fog happens on cool nights. But we will see radiational cooling tonight. We'll see fog, so just be ready for that. It burns off quickly and works its way out of here as we head through the day on Thursday. Here's a look at the morning drive tomorrow. Should be a dry one for you after a few wet morning drives. Temperatures in the 60s. It's going to be a lot of clouds around and the fog around, but we will see those numbers climbing into the 70s as we head toward lunchtime. We'll top out tomorrow at 80 degrees. A foggy start and then partly sunny skies across the area. It should be another nice day, not a great day. Still a little bit of humidity in there. That lower humidity still a few days off. A look at our temperatures tomorrow across the region. 79 Carrboro, Holly Springs, 80 Cary, 79 Garner, Clayton, 79 Wendell. You'll be at 80 in Sanford, 82 Rayford, Fayetteville, 80 Lillington, 81 in Goldsboro. You go north, those numbers are in the 70s, 76 Roxborough, Henderson 78, Lewisburg 79, Rocky Mount, and 80 in Wilson. The 7-day forecast powered by AccuWeather. 80 partly sunny skies. Friday, more clouds working through. We'll talk about why coming up in just a bit, but there's going to be plenty of clouds around on Friday and maybe a sprinkler or two in western counties. Saturday, still a little bit humid, 83 degrees. Sunday, partly sunny, 81. Should be a nice day to get things done outside. I'll guarantee it's going to be a good day because meteorologist Robert Johnson's still off and I have to work Sunday night, so it's going to be beautiful because I'll be here. Monday, slight chance of showers, 82. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, we feel like fall around here, 73 on Tuesday. Wednesday, 72 degrees. It's been such a busy tropical season, and we're going to talk about the tropical season coming up. And we'll also take a look at what's happening as far as your old school weather. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Weather Show. President Biden was in our state today visiting North and South Carolina to assess the devastation that Hurricane Helene left behind. Now, while Vice President Harris meets with officials in Georgia, another area hit hard by the storm, ABC's Christian Cordero has the details from Washington.
The president and vice president are fanned across the southeast after a storm that killed more than 160 people, with some still unaccounted for. Today, President Biden takes a look over western North Carolina firsthand, a bird's eye view of what Helene left behind.
We're going down to see what the damage done. I'm going to be going back again to other states.
These are very difficult times, and in a moment of crisis, I think that really does bring out the best of who we are, and you each epitomize that important and good works.
Vice President Harris in Augusta, Georgia, where swaths of people have no power, no running water, and in some cases, nowhere else to go.
We hadn't even been able to get out of our driveway. Our car is blocked in behind the tree. And it has been, we run around, we got coolers, we filled them with water, and that's what we use them for our water.
6,300 National Guard troops are on the ground across the region as volunteers work with officials around the clock to deliver food, resources, and a sense of community.
We appreciate the people that have came out to the city to help out, and I don't know where we'll be without y'all.
With roads cut off and people still unaccounted for, search and rescue efforts are growing more dire. Rod and Kim Ashby's daughter tells ABC News her parents were in their home as it floated down the river.
We know that a neighbor saw the house actually hit the bridge, and at that point the house started to collapse.
Rod was rescued Tuesday night. Kim is still missing. Biden is scheduled to visit Georgia and Florida tomorrow. Christian Cordero, ABC News, Washington.
Just heartbreaking. All right, let's change gears a little bit. It's that time of night. Hear the funky bass. It is old school weather, we like to call it. And the reason we call it that is because we do a real weather breakdown here. We're going to talk a little bit about high pressure, low pressure, and fronts and all that weather geek stuff you used to see all the time in the 90s when we did weather. But now we just don't have time to cover it in every newscast we do here on the Weather Show. So this is our latest surface map, our most current surface map drawn by our computer. Let's zoom down into our area first. We do have a weak cool front off to the north. Now remember, a front is shows us two opposing forces of weather. You've got cold air on one side, warm air on the other side. Whichever one is winning, that's the name of the front. So in this place, it's a cold front or a cool front. This cold air is trying to push into the warmer air. It's not very cold. But it's enough that it did trigger a few showers as we headed through the afternoon. We'll notice it a little cooler tonight. Last night we were in the upper 60s. Tonight we'll be in the lower 60s as that drops through. Now it's also a stationary front back to the south and west. And then this black line, where do we see that black kind of dotted line there? That is a trough. It's an upper level disturbance. And so we're watching this disturbance down in the Gulf because it has a 40% chance of becoming something tropical. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But that's what it is. There's just a little bit of a disturbance down in the Gulf. This stationary front, and it's called that because on one side you've got the cool air. That's the blue arrows pointing this way. On this side you got the warm air. So that's the bubble of red pointing this way. When those two are stuck together, neither one of those opposing pockets of air are strong enough to win. Like if it was a cold front, then the cold air is winning. If it's a warm front, the warm air is winning. When it's a stationary front, neither one's winning, and they're both stuck there. And so that's what we're seeing, that stationary front right now set up down over the deep south. High pressure, big blue H's on the map mean high pressure. High pressure is where there's a lot of air packed into one place, so there's not a lot of room for that air to move around and cause problems. And because of that, it's usually designated by a blue H because you see blue skies with high pressure. And there's a lot of high pressure. Through the Midwest, all that dry air that we were talking about earlier, there's just not a lot happening out through the Midwest. As we go up into the Northwest, we start to see cold fronts. Remember, cold air is winning again. Cold fronts pressing off to the south. This is some of Canada's finest air trying to push south. Eventually, it will push in here. It's going to do two things. One, it's going to push our highs down to the 70s. And two, it's going to bring drier air and lower dew points. And finally, a break from the humidity, and we get to dry out. As that cool air is dropping in out of Canada, they are seeing some snow in the Canadian Rockies. But around here, we are dry. That cold front up to the north is triggering showers through central Pennsylvania, up through Lock Haven, and then as you get into upstate New York, Albany with a few spotty showers. And that continues up to the Canadian border and down through Virginia, but the front falls apart. It just doesn't have a lot of moisture to work with in our area. The trough out there still causing some showers out in the Gulf. We're seeing some afternoon showers, kind of fire in Florida. That's just from the daily movement of the air as it goes out to sea and into sea. It will bring some afternoon pop-up showers at the beach. We zoom back to the west out into parts of New Mexico. There's Roswell, New Mexico. I used to work there doing weather down in southeast New Mexico. Some showers out around Albuquerque headed toward Truth or Consequences. But those are just rain showers, and really it is quiet across the nation. A couple of snowflakes flying in the higher portions of the Canadian Rockies out toward Calgary as they see some of the termination dust working in, but they're not seeing anything in the way of rainfall or big heavy snows. Let's talk tropical season and where we are. So notice the spike. The biggest portion of tropical storms and hurricanes usually happens around September 15th. Statistically speaking, that's the middle point of our tropical season. Today we're into the first week of October. We're on the downside. Still could see a spike toward the end of the month. We do occasionally see that statistically. We're not seeing a ton of tropical activity out there, but there are two systems we're looking at. First of all, this one's easy to pick out. You can see the swirl there. That's Hurricane Kirk. It is a Category 1 hurricane expected to stay out to sea, but could become a Category 3 hurricane. That makes it a major hurricane as early as tomorrow. So we are watching that. And then you'll notice this big orange area. Remember that trough I talked about, that upper level disturbance? Well, there's a 40% chance that it could trigger a tropical cyclone to form. Even if it does, and that's a big if, because there's a 60% chance it doesn't. But 40% chance it forms. if it does become something, it is expected to slide off to the east, stay mainly across Florida, and not be a factor in our weather. And that's great news for the North Carolina mountains we started this segment with. They need to dry out as much as they can. So we could see a system, even if it does form, it stays across Florida, not a factor in North Carolina weather. We can actually look at the European model. We'll run it ahead till Friday night at 4 o'clock. It does try to develop a little bit of shower activity down here. You'll notice this is a cool front working through. As the moist air comes off the ocean and runs into it, we may see a stray shower in western counties on Friday. If we run this ahead, though, high pressure settles in. It pushes everything south. Now, the European model doesn't actually form a really tight, well-defined area of low pressure. We're not seeing the typical hurricane signature that we'd see, but you are seeing the moisture, and that's what could work toward Orlando over the next couple of days. We stay dry, though, as high pressure continues to build in. I'm going to look at this model out in the ocean. This is that well-defined Eye of Kirk. Notice there's the coast of Africa clear out there. Here's the west coast, the east coast of the United States. This thing just stays out here. It pulls up into the ocean. As it gets caught up in the upper atmosphere, it takes it away. There is a secondary system that could form. There's some disturbances coming off of Africa, so we will watch for that. But again, this is looking out into next week, Tuesday at 10 o'clock, still well out to sea. We do not have to worry about any tropical systems in here over the next couple of days, which is great news. All right, coming up, we're going to talk even more about the tropics. We've got our friends from AccuWeather. We will check in with them. And then it's time to answer some viewer mail. Stay with us.
The damage and financial toll from Hurricane Helene and the flooding in western North Carolina is catastrophic. AccuWeather now estimates the total damage and economic loss in the U.S. is between $145 and $160 billion. AccuWeather Chief Meteorologist John Porter joins us from AccuWeather Global Weather Center. John, good to see you. Look, it's been a tough week for millions of families across the Southeast, especially in the Carolinas, between the damage, the power outages, the roads being washed out. What impacts does AccuWeather consider in these estimates?
That's right. It's been a very tough weekend. Many more ahead here as the recovery and the rebuilding process starts. Here at AccuWeather, we look holistically at not only just the insured damage, uninsured damage, but also a wide variety of other factors, including interruption of business, medical care, the cost of evacuations, crop damage, power outages, many other factors in order to assess the total damage and economic loss. And it's a big number, as you mentioned, $145 to $160 billion. And it does not have, and Helene does not have good company in this regard. Look at some of the other storms. Ian was $180 to $210 billion. So we're talking about a total damage and economic loss similar to that and much more than that of Florence, which was such a devastating storm across North Carolina, $50 to $60 billion in 2018, adjusted to 2024 numbers. So this is going to be one of the country's most impactful and damaging natural disasters.
It's absolutely stunning. John, what made this storm so unique, so dangerous here in the Carolinas compared to what we saw in Florida, where Helene made landfall as a Cat 4 hurricane?
Well, the biggest problem, and this is why we were urging people to be prepared using language exclusively here at AccuWeather, calling for a flooding disaster days in advance, because we saw the fact that there was going to be 8 to 12 inches of rain as tropical moisture was drawn ahead of the system. That was before Helene even got into the mountains of North Carolina. Then once the storm arrived, there were rainfall rates of 2 to 4 inches per hour in very steep terrain in the western part of North Carolina, of course, eastern Tennessee and surrounding areas as well. And so all of that water had to run off. The ground was extremely saturated, and that's what led to the rapidly rising water and a truly once in a lifetime storm that AccuWeather had forecast. Just a tremendous tragedy, and our hearts go out to all of the people who have been dealing with these devastating impacts across a multi-state area.
Just absolutely catastrophic flooding. John, hurricane season not over yet. What message do you have for folks who live in these hilly or mountainous areas like your Asheville, especially near creeks or rivers?
Well, that's a key thing, is that especially people living near the rivers and creeks, they were at the greatest risks. And that's one of the reasons that we, of course, stress that urgency in advance. The other challenge that people are going to be dealing with is, we know this loss has been significant. The economic damage this is going to take from other disasters that we've seen. It's probably going to take in the hardest hit areas perhaps 10 years to fully recover. And people are going to need a lot of help along the way. And the other factor that's going to be a major issue here is that since much of the damage has been water damage, many homeowners' policies do not cover for water damages. So in fact, people need to have insurance through the National Flood Insurance Program. That's a separate insurance cover. And in some of the counties, for example, in the area near Asheville, less than 1% of homeowners have that type of coverage. So there's going to be a lot of help that's needed in order to start that rebuilding process. And we've got more of the hurricane season still to come. And that's why we're stressing, and we have been stressing this for months, that the second half of the season can be very active. We're really in the third quarter here. If you think about this as a football game analogy, that means there's more time to go. We're concerned about more impacts in the United States. So stay tuned to that AccuWeather forecast and be prepared.
Certainly will. That's John Porter, Chief Meteorologist over at AccuWeather. John, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, John. And also a tip of the meteorological cap to Joel Brown. We've got Robert Johnson on vacation this week. Joel stepped in and talked to those friends from AccuWeather. This great interview. Talks about just the immense impacts we are seeing. How about we do some viewer mail? It is that time of the day when we answer your questions, and we love to hear from you, and maybe it'll advance. There we go. Let's talk the question coming in tonight. And remember, you can always go to abc11.com/share to send me your questions. Lauren in Bunn writes, what causes the fall colors to appear on trees? She also asks when it's going to happen. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Let's talk about the actual scientific data, though, behind it. So we've got our green leaves, and as cooler weather settles in and we start to see the trees get a little bit, they're not seeing as much daylight, what happens is the chlorophyll, the green part of it, starts to break down, and it leaves the other chemicals behind that are in the leaves. So green leaves are full of chlorophyll. Yellow leaves are full of xanthophyll. Xanthophil. I got it. I knew that one was going to catch me. When any word starts with an X, it's tough. Orange, we've got carotene. Orange leaves have the same stuff in them that you have in carrots. And then red, which is anthocyanin, that's what's left behind. So the chlorophyll all goes away, the colors are left behind, and we get these beautiful fall colors that show up. Bright colors are more likely when late summer is dry and autumn has sunny days and cool nights. Well, it's been very wet around here in September, but August was very, very dry, and we're about to get into some of those warm days and really cool nights, so hopefully that will trigger more fall colors. They're not going to be able to see a lot of them, unfortunately. Parts of the Blue Ridge Parkway are gone right now. They're going to have to rebuild that, so it's going to be a down year to drive up and see them in the mountains. They are seeing a little bit of color in our area. You may see a tree here or there that has color on it, but for the most part, we're not seeing big fall colors yet, and we usually don't until the last weeks of October into November in the Triangle, but we will keep an eye out on it and we will keep you informed. And one other thing I want to show you real quick, all the music, all the behind the scenes stuff, that comes from our great folks in the control room. Can we show this? I don't know if we should. There they are. There's Anna waving. She's the director on the left, and she's the one who puts all the pictures out and chooses all the music. We've got Ebony on the right. She's the one who makes sure that I stay on time and make sure all the stories are ready to go. So thank you to both of them doing a great job for us in the control room. Just thought it was kind of cool to show you that control room look. All right, we will show you the coffee forecast, and we've also got the viewer pick this week. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We're not just all about weather, we're all about science on the Weather Show. How about this? Check this out. One of the Earth's tallest mountains, the tallest one, Mount Everest, is actually growing taller. Recent GPS measurements showed that Everest was growing at a rate of about 2 millimeters per year rather than the expected 1 millimeter per year. The scientists say understanding how this is happening could help predict Earth's landscapes and how they might evolve in the future with changing climates and weather patterns. And it's actually, over the past several thousand years, has grown approximately 150 feet, if you can believe that. They think what happened is a river that's over 50 miles east of it carved into the rock. It made part of the rock fall into the river, and that made the mountain lighter, and it kind of bounced up. It rebounded about 150 feet, and that's why it's grown so much. So pretty cool. It's Mount Everest continues to grow. Our viewer pick this week comes to us from Marcel. I'm going to go with de Gaulier. I don't know if it's French pronunciation or not. This was taken in Wilson, their backyard, where the swings on the swing set were actually floating. Their camper was floating. All of the backyard underwater with the rains that we saw last week. Luckily, Marcel reports everything has gone down. So that is good news for Marcel and really good news for everybody as the water continues to work out. If you've got a cool pick, we'd love to see it. Just go to abc11.com/share. That's the easiest way to show us your viewer pick. Let's show you the coffee forecast. We like to end our show with the coffee forecast. And you'll notice as tomorrow morning you're getting that cup of coffee, kind of easing into the day. That's what that music is there, just easing into the day. I know that first sip, what tastes better than that first sip of coffee in the morning? Seriously. I mean, I could think of some other things, but I probably shouldn't talk about that. So 64 is where we'll start the day tomorrow. We'll be in the 60s till 10 o'clock when we go to 70 degrees. Should be a nice morning for a second cup of coffee, and it's going to be foggy, so make sure and allow that extra time. That fog could be rather thick across the region. We talked about that earlier. I wouldn't even be surprised if they issue a dense fog advisory for part of the area. That is going to do it for us tonight. We thank you so much for spending part of your Wednesday evening with us. Taking a live look at the Doppler network where we're not seeing anything, and hopefully for the next week, this will stay dry. Our thoughts and prayers go out to everybody in Western North Carolina. Please stay with ABC 11. We are going to have fundraising efforts along with the Red Cross to help the folks out there. You can always log on to abc11.com right now to find out how you can make a donation to help, and just keep those prayers coming to them. I know they'll help those folks who are dealing with so much in Western North Carolina. Thanks for spending part of your evening with us. You take care. We'll see you next Wednesday on The Weather Show. Until then, have a great week and stay safe.